The conference room at Grandpa's lawyer's office felt too small for the 18 family members crowded inside. My brother Derek sat at the head of the table beside Mom, both of them wearing somber expressions that didn't quite hide their anticipation. It had been 2 weeks since Grandpa's funeral. I sat in the back row with my husband James, watching as Martin Sheffield, Grandpa's attorney of 30 years, shuffled papers at the front of the room. The February rain beat against the windows of the downtown office building. "Thank you all for coming," Martin began, his voice heavy with age and exhaustion. "Harold's passing has been difficult for everyone. I've been his attorney since 1994 and his friend even longer. Today we're here to read his last will and testament." Aunt Rebecca dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Uncle Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Derek leaned forward, his expression focused. "Before we begin," Martin continued, "I need to address something unusual. 3 weeks ago Harold came to my office with what he claimed was an updated will. He said he'd made changes to better reflect his wishes regarding property distribution." My stomach tightened. Something in Martin's tone wasn't right. "However," Martin said carefully, "upon examination I found several irregularities in the document. The signature didn't match Harold's recent signing patterns. The notary seal appeared altered. And most notably, the provisions contradicted conversations I'd had with Harold just days before his supposed visit." Derek's confident expression flickered slightly. "I informed Harold, or rather the person claiming to represent Harold's wishes, that I could not file this updated will without further verification. I requested a meeting with Harold directly to confirm the changes." Martin paused. "Harold passed away before that meeting could occur." The room had gone completely silent. "Therefore," Martin continued, "we will be reading Harold's legitimate last will and testament, dated March 15, 2023, which remains the valid legal document. The questionable updated version has been set aside pending investigation." Derek's face had gone pale. Mom gripped his arm. Martin opened the folder containing Grandpa's actual will. "Harold Lawrence Patterson's estate includes the family home on Maple Street, the rental properties downtown, 4 units total, his investment portfolio valued at approximately $890,000 and various personal effects. The estate's total value is estimated at $3.2 million. Aunt Rebecca gasped softly. Several cousins exchanged glances. That was significantly more than anyone had expected. Harold's instructions are as follows, Martin read. "The family home on Maple Street is bequeathed to his granddaughter, Claire Patterson Morrison, in recognition of her care during his final years and her commitment to preserving the property's historical integrity." My breath caught. James squeezed my hand. "The 4 rental properties downtown are also bequeathed to Claire, who currently manages them professionally and has maintained them according to Harold's standards for the past 8 years. Derek stood up abruptly. "That's not right. That's not what Grandpa wanted." Martin looked at him over his reading glasses. "Mr. Patterson, please sit down. Outbursts during will readings are inappropriate." "But Grandpa changed his mind," Derek insisted, his voice rising. "He told me himself 3 weeks ago. He wanted the properties divided fairly among all the grandchildren, not just given to Claire because she works in real estate." "I work in estate law," I corrected quietly. "I'm a senior partner at Morrison & Associates. We specialize in property trusts and inheritance planning." "Whatever," Derek snapped. "The point is, Grandpa realized it wasn't fair for you to get everything just because you suck up to lawyers and know legal jargon." "Derek," Mom said sharply, but she didn't tell him to sit down. Martin's expression had hardened. "Mr. Patterson, the will I'm reading is the legitimate document, properly executed, witnessed and filed. If you're referring to the questionable document that was presented to me 3 weeks ago, I suggest you sit down and remain quiet, or I'll ask you to leave." Derek sat, but his jaw was clenched, his hands balled into fists. Martin continued reading. "The investment portfolio is to be divided among Harold's 3 children, Rebecca, Thomas and Margaret, in equal shares. Personal effects are distributed according to the attached inventory, with specific items designated for specific family members." He closed the folder. "That concludes the reading. I'll be filing this will with the probate court next week. The estate will be settled within 6 to 9 months, barring any contests." I'm contesting it, Derek said immediately. Martin sighed. On what grounds? On the grounds that Grandpa wanted to change it. He came to your office with an updated will. You're ignoring his final wishes because of some technicality. The technicality, Martin said coldly, is that the signature was forged, the notary seal was fraudulent, and the entire document was a fabrication. That's not a technicality, Mr. Patterson. That's a crime. The room erupted. Aunt Rebecca stood up, demanding to know what Martin was implying. Uncle Tom asked if Derek had forged Grandpa's will. Mom started crying, saying her son would never do such a thing. I remained seated, watching Derek's face cycle through emotions. Anger, fear, defiance, and finally, calculation. I want to see this so-called fake will, Derek demanded. I want an independent expert to examine it. You're probably just protecting Claire because she works in the legal field. This is corruption. The document has been secured as evidence, Martin said. And yes, an independent forensic document examiner has already analyzed it. Their findings will be included in the report I'm filing with the district attorney's office. Derek's face went white. The district attorney? Forgery of a legal document is a felony, Martin said. Particularly forgery of a will, which constitutes fraud and attempted theft. The DA's office takes these matters very seriously. Mom grabbed Derek's arm again. Martin, surely there's been a misunderstanding. Derek wouldn't. Mrs. Patterson, Martin interrupted gently, the forged document gave Derek the family home and all 4 rental properties. It reduced Claire's inheritance to a token $10,000 and a few pieces of furniture. The motive is quite clear. I finally spoke up. When exactly did this fraudulent will supposedly appear? Martin consulted his notes. February 3rd. A man claiming to be Harold came to my office with the document. My assistant Rachel noted that he seemed younger than she remembered, but she assumed Harold was having a good day. I was in court, so the document was left with her. February 3rd was a Monday, I said. Grandpa had a doctor's appointment that morning at 10 a.m. I drove him. We had lunch afterward at the diner on Oak Street. We didn't leave until 2 p.m. and then I took him home. His afternoon nurse, Patricia, arrived at 2:30 and stayed until 6 p.m. Martin raised his eyebrows. So Harold couldn't have been at my office. Not unless he teleported, I said. And I have the credit card receipt from lunch, the doctor's appointment record, and Patricia's timesheet. Grandpa was accounted for all day. Derek had started sweating. Maybe it was a different Monday. You're confused. The document is dated February 3rd, Martin said. The notary stamp shows 11:30 a.m. that day. Your grandfather was provably elsewhere. Then someone made a mistake on the date, Derek tried. Or someone forged the will and didn't bother checking where Grandpa actually was that day, I said, my voice calm but firm. Martin, do you still have the office security footage from February 3rd? I do, Martin said slowly. Rachel mentioned we should review it. We haven't yet. I think we should, I said. Right now. Martin looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Everyone wait here. He left the conference room. The silence was deafening. Derek stared at the table. Mom cried quietly. Aunt Rebecca looked between me and Derek like she was watching a tennis match. James leaned over and whispered, "You knew about this?" "I suspected," I whispered back. Derek asked me 3 weeks ago about Grandpa's assets. Wanted to know what the properties were worth, whether Grandpa had talked about his will. I told him Grandpa's estate plans were private. 2 days later, Martin's assistant called me saying someone had dropped off an updated will and did I know anything about it. "And you didn't say anything?" "I told Martin to verify everything," I said. I didn't want to accuse Derek without proof. But I've been documenting Grandpa's whereabouts and collecting evidence just in case. Martin returned with a laptop. He set it on the conference table and opened a video file. "This is from our lobby security camera, February 3rd, 11:15 a.m. The video showed a man entering the office building. He was wearing a baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses, and a jacket despite it being indoors. He walked with his head down, clearly trying to avoid the camera. "That's not Grandpa," Aunt Rebecca said immediately. The man approached the reception desk, spoke briefly to Rachel, handed her an envelope and left quickly. The entire interaction took less than 2 minutes. "Now watch this," Martin said, pulling up a second video. This is from the hallway camera at a different angle. This footage showed the man from the side as he left the building. Despite the hat and sunglasses, his build and gait were visible. Derek made a small sound, almost a whimper. That's Derek, Uncle Tom said quietly. I'd recognize that walk anywhere. He broke his ankle in high school, never walked quite the same after. Mom was shaking her head. No, that could be anyone. Mrs. Patterson, Martin said, not unkindly. The forensic document examiner also analyzed the handwriting on the signature. It's not Harold's signature. It's an attempted forgery. And the notary seal? It belongs to a notary who retired in 2019. The stamp was reported stolen from a storage unit last year. Derek stood up abruptly. I'm leaving. This is harassment. You're all ganging up on me because Claire's a lawyer and she manipulated Grandpa into leaving her everything. I didn't manipulate anyone, I said, standing as well. I took care of Grandpa for 3 years. I managed his properties because he asked me to. I drove him to appointments, had lunch with him every Monday, called him every night. What did you do, Derek? I visited, he said defensively. Twice a year, I said. Christmas and his birthday. You didn't call. You didn't help. You didn't care until you realized there was money involved. He was supposed to leave something for all of us, Derek said, his voice breaking. It's not fair that you get millions while the rest of us get nothing. The rest of us aren't getting nothing, Aunt Rebecca said sharply. Mom and Uncle Tom and I are splitting the investment portfolio. That's nearly $300,000 each. And the grandchildren who actually spend time with Dad, like Claire, deserve to inherit the properties they helped maintain. I have a family, Derek said desperately, looking at Mom. I have 2 kids, a mortgage, student loans. Claire and James both have high-paying jobs. They don't need Grandpa's money. Need and deserve are different things, I said. And forging a will doesn't make you deserving. It makes you a criminal. Martin closed the laptop. Mr. Patterson, I'm obligated to report this to the authorities. The evidence is substantial. The forged signature, the stolen notary seal, the security footage showing you delivering the fraudulent document, and the timeline proving Harold couldn't have been at my office when you claimed he was. You can't prove anything, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. I can prove quite a lot, Martin said. I've been an attorney for 42 years. I've seen a dozen will forgeries. Yours isn't even particularly sophisticated. Mom stood up, grabbing her purse. We're leaving. Come on, Derek. We'll get our own lawyer. That's advisable, Martin said. Because criminal charges will be filed by Friday. I'm meeting with the district attorney tomorrow morning. Derek and Mom left quickly, the door slamming behind them. Several other family members followed, murmuring amongst themselves. Within minutes, only Aunt Rebecca, Uncle Tom, James, and I remained. Aunt Rebecca looked at me with sad eyes. Did you know Derek was going to do this? I suspected he might try something, I admitted. He'd been asking strange questions about the properties. About whether Grandpa had diminished capacity, whether a will could be contested. I warned Martin to be careful about any last-minute changes. You protected Dad's real wishes, Uncle Tom said. That's what matters. I protected the truth, I corrected. Grandpa knew what he wanted. He updated his will 2 years ago when he was completely competent with Martin and 2 witnesses present. He left the properties to me because I'd already been managing them for 6 years. He left the investments to his kids because that's traditional. He made thoughtful, intentional choices. And Derek tried to steal it all, Aunt Rebecca said bitterly. Martin gathered his papers. Claire, I'll need you to come by my office next week. We'll begin the probate process. With the forged will situation, there may be delays, but your grandfather's legitimate wishes will be honored. Thank you, Martin. After he left, Aunt Rebecca hugged me. I'm sorry about Derek. About your mother supporting him. That can't be easy. It's not, I admitted. But I'm not backing down. Grandpa trusted me with his legacy. I won't let Derek's fraud erase that. James and I drove home in silence. Rain continued to fall, turning the city streets slick and gray. My phone buzzed repeatedly, messages from cousins asking what happened, from Mom demanding I fix this, from Derek's wife saying I was tearing the family apart. I turned off my phone. Are you okay? James asked as we pulled into our driveway. I will be, I said. Once this is over. It's going to get ugly. It already is ugly, I said. But I have the truth, the documentation, and the law on my side. Derek has a forged will, stolen notary seal, and security footage showing him committing a felony. Friday morning, I received a call from the district attorney's office. Derek had been charged with forgery, fraud, and attempted theft by deception. All felonies. His bail hearing was scheduled for Monday. Mom called 30 minutes later hysterical. How could you do this to your brother? How could you send him to jail? I didn't send him anywhere, I said calmly. He forged Grandpa's will. He committed fraud. He tried to steal millions of dollars. Those are crimes, Mom. I didn't make him commit them. He made a mistake. He was desperate. You have to drop the charges. I can't drop criminal charges, I explained. The state prosecutes felonies, not individual victims. And even if I could, I wouldn't. Derek didn't just hurt me. He disrespected Grandpa's memory, violated the law, and tried to defraud the entire family. You've always been jealous of him, Mom said, her voice turning vicious. Always competitive. You can't stand that he might have gotten something you wanted. I'm not jealous of a forger, I said. And I'm done with this conversation. I hung up. She called back 17 times. I blocked her number. The probate process moved forward. Martin filed Grandpa's legitimate will with the court. The judge reviewed the evidence of Derek's forgery and ruled it inadmissible, calling it a transparent and poorly executed fraud. Derek pleaded guilty to reduced charges, 1 count of forgery, 1 count of fraud. He received 18 months in prison and 5 years probation. He was also ordered to pay $47,000 in restitution to cover legal fees and investigation costs. Mom never forgave me. We haven't spoken in 2 years. Half the family took Derek's side, claiming I was heartless for pressing charges against my own brother. The other half understood that protecting Grandpa's wishes mattered more than family politics. I inherited the family home and the rental properties as Grandpa intended. I renovated the house carefully, preserving its historical features while updating the systems. I continue managing the rental properties, maintaining them to Grandpa's standards. Every Monday I have lunch at the diner on Oak Street, the same one where Grandpa and I used to eat. I sit in our usual booth and remember the conversations we had about integrity, responsibility, and doing the right thing even when it's difficult. Grandpa told me once, 2 months before he died, that he'd chosen me as his heir because I understood the difference between ownership and stewardship. Derek wants things, Grandpa had said. You want to protect things. That's why you get the properties. Because you'll take care of them like I did. He was right. Derek wanted to own Grandpa's legacy so he could sell it, spend it, use it up. I wanted to protect it, preserve it, honor it. The difference between those two approaches? That's why Derek's in prison and I'm managing 4 thriving rental properties and a beautiful historical home. The will was clear. The law was clear. And the security footage that showed Derek delivering a forged document? That was crystal clear. Grandpa's legacy remained exactly where he wanted it, protected by someone who understood that inheritance isn't about what you can take. It's about what you're trusted to preserve. And the court documents proved it.